Hey, everybody, and welcome to Getting a Grip, the podcast that talks about EOS and highlights EOS companies, the journey they've been on, things that have gone well, things that maybe have not gone so well, some things they've struggled with. That's the purpose of this podcast, is to highlight those areas for listeners who are either considering EOS or somewhere on their EOS journey. I'm really excited for this episode because I have my good friend and client, Benoit Boudreau, with me as a guest. Benoit is the integrator at Encounter Ministries. Benoit, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me, Mike. I really appreciate being here.
I'm excited to talk to you, man. So let's just start out with tell the listeners a little bit about Encounter Ministries, what Encounter's about, what you do, and where you do it.
Absolutely. So, Encounter Ministries is a Catholic non-for-profit that's about 10 years old. We were founded by two founders, a priest and also a layperson, so a Catholic man, so Father Matthias Thalen and Patrick Rice. Together, they were really inspired by the Holy Spirit and just to see this huge need we have in the Catholic Church, which is teaching people how to actually share their faith. You know what I mean? And so often people want to know how to share their faith, but they just, you know what I mean, they're not receiving the instructions they need in their parish. So we saw that need, and the ministry grew very quickly. We got lots of endorsements worldwide, and it's become a humongous organization now that literally is in every nation and 8 different major language groups as well. But we've had so much chaos, you know what I mean, in the quick growth that we were like, man, organizationally, we need to clean up a lot of things. And that's one of the things that led us to EOS in the beginning.
So it's a nonprofit, correct?
Yeah.
And what's interesting is that's there's a lot of commonality there. People don't often realize that EOS is a fit for nonprofits as well. Maybe some would argue even better than it is for for-profit businesses, because the target market for EOS is entrepreneurial for-profit businesses. But I found as an implementer, and you've experienced as a practitioner of EOS, that the principles and the tools in the framework of EOS apply very directly to a nonprofit. You talked about rapid growth creating chaos and confusion, and that happens in both the for-profit and nonprofit world, right?
Yeah.
But being growth oriented is kind of a requirement, right? And that was part of the mission, is we want to grow this thing, and you have, like you said, worldwide now.
Yeah. And I think too, one thing that non-for-profits have that is it makes working with EOS so much easier is the core value alignment. You know what I mean, EOS is so strong in core values, and it ties very well into our mission, if that makes sense. So the reason that we hire people is because they believe in the mission. I mean, it's not just a job for them. They actually want to see the things we're trying to do to fulfillment, right? So it was so helpful going through EOS and them even helping us refine what is our core values. And then also now that's how we hire, you know what I mean? It's based on who's core value aligned.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And if I think about the for-profits and the non-for-profits that I've coached over the years, and I may have shared this with you individually, but the not-for-profits start faster. And I think it's because we begin with the foundation of core values. That's like the first session, focus day. We get into what are the core values of the organization. And not that for-profits don't have core values, they do, but the not-for-profits, these are mission-aligned people. I mean, they're there
Yeah.
because they believe in the mission. So they kind of bleed those core values, right? They come out of them. And so just codifying those and getting those articulated and agreed upon is like lightning for a not-for-profit, right? It's the juice that gets everything else going. And then, as you said, then you begin with the next step of getting the right people, right? Making sure that we have everybody aligned, that people in our organization are believe in our core values and live our core values, and then getting them in the right seats. So that was all part of your journey. Now you've been on the journey for a while. So talk about the journey. Like, what were some of when you look back on, where you were in the beginning, maybe even before you started, what was it that led you to make the decision to implement EOS? What were some of the things that you were looking at? You mentioned rapid growth, get things getting a bit chaotic with the expansion. What else led to that decision?
Yeah, so well, one of our founders, Father Matthias Thalen, he had brought you, Mike, to the parish, and they were like, man, this is just so helpful for us. And so a lot of it was his recommendation referral of you. It's just like Mike with EOS is exactly what Encounter needs. With our organization, with Patrick, he's our CEO, and he's a very strong visionary, and he's a lot more capable than most visionaries in the fact that he can actually get pretty far on his own. And that's kind of what we saw. The issue though with the visionary is he has so many great ideas, and it's just so easy to be like, we're just gonna jump to this one, jump to this idea, jump to this idea, and there's sort of this whiplash on the rest of the staff. And it kind of really affects morale because they're like, one day I'm doing this, the next day I'm doing that. And it's just like, I don't like stopping and starting because it doesn't give me any sort of like, I can't trust what I'm going to be doing. You know, what I mean, it doesn't give them a sense of stability, if that makes sense. So we saw quite a bit of turnover, a lot of just reactionary, sometimes hiring and letting go and things like that. And it's all normal for like new organizations. You know what I mean? It's like there's a lot of that. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, we're still figuring out what's our goal? What are we doing? What are we capable of? And what we found, like I think by far the very first thing that we saw value in as soon as we started working with you, Mike, was you being like, okay, the team core values, you know what I mean? What are those? And we had our visionary Patrick sit down and be like, okay, what are the features of our best staff members? What do they have in common? Right. And we define like almost like an avatar of the ideal staff member, right? Like what is their, like they do this, this, and this, and they don't do this, this, and this. And we set that as the standard. And we created a self-assessment test, and we had every staff member go through it. And it was really revealing. Like for the members who have been struggling the most, they did not do well on that self-assessment. And for them, it was actually helpful. They weren't like offended. They were like, actually, well, this explains why I've been struggling here because there's been this unwritten rule and expectation that I'm supposed to behave in a certain way where you guys never even articulated that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Especially when you were hiring me. And so, in all fairness to them, some of them self-selected out. They're like, you know what I mean? I'm not the best fit here. And we found like as soon as that happened, and also as we were starting to hire people based on these core values, like, okay, we're going to pick this applicant over the other because, hey, their core value aligned in this way. Like, for example, bold communication is a big one for us, right? We don't want people like being passive aggressive or saying things behind people's back. It's like if you have an issue with someone, go to them directly, that one-on-one, like say the hard thing. EOS is very strong on that. And we found in hiring that way, we consistently are getting new hires that we're happy with, you know what I mean? Where we don't have to let them go right away. And so now we're gaining traction where our staff we've doubled in size since we implemented EOS in terms of staff numbers. And yeah, and we've been happy. Our success rate is way higher in hiring as well. So I'd say, yeah, those are some quick highlights. But yeah, we had that pain point of just like staff overall morale was not super happy. You know what I mean? They didn't like the direct visionary kind of overseeing the details, the day-to-day details of the ministry, which isn't really what the best use of the visionaries' gifts. Their job and their gifting is like, where are we going? You know what I mean? What is God asking us to do? And we really identify the need is there needs to be a buffer person, you know what I mean, between the visionary and the staff. Someone who can help the visionary, who's the visionary's like right-hand man, who's like there to cheer him on, filter through his best ideas, but also kind of help him save him from himself sometimes in the sense of
Yeah.
like he wants to do so many things, but he can't, right? He can't do all of it, right? And it's like, okay, to protect your best ideas, I'm going to say no to this one for now, right? It's always
Yeah.
kind of like for now. And the staff appreciates that, you know what I mean? Because it's like, okay, it's my job really to gauge as the integrator, where are they at? What can we handle right now? And what's more of a long-term issue? And the more the pacing, you know what I mean? Not saying no, but like, okay, let's, and for me, I was just honored that like I originally my role was just the director of events. You know what I mean? I was working right with the visionary, Patrick, in organizing all these events. And I saw that, you know what I mean? So Patrick asked me, along with Father Matthias, if I could step into the integrator role to be that buffer. We hired a replacement for me to take over the events. And we just have found everyone's been like, we even did a staff survey, you know what I mean? Because it's easy for leadership to think we're doing great, you know what I mean? And almost live in a la la land. But
Yeah.
we did a staff survey of like where it was anonymous before implementing EOS, where were you? What would you rate the ministry after EOS? What would you rate the ministry? And by far, I was astonished with how much positive feedback all of the staff members had. And it was a very strong yes. We have seen progress, and this is a better place to work after we've implemented EOS.
There's so much in that. I mean, that's so good. And you described the visionary personality so well. They're gifted with so many things, the ability to see strategic direction, to see issues that nobody else can see because they're more focused on the big picture, the forest versus the trees, but they also can create that whiplash without that integrator who can help them. You said it better than I could. You said to protect them from themselves, also protect the organization from the integrator, but then enable them as a visionary to really truly use those God-given gifts to drive the mission of the organization forward, in a way that nobody else can, right? Because they're uniquely gifted to do that. I think the phrase in EOS circles is the integrator serves as Ritalin for the visionary, right? It keeps that visionary Ritalin, and that's the seat that you took on. But it wasn't immediate, right? Like it took some time. Did it take you and Patrick some time to get that rhythm down between the visionary and the integrator?
Oh, absolutely. Like the biggest thing is trust, you know what I mean? So if anyone's a visionary and they're like, man, like I'm kind of afraid of giving up control, you know what I mean, of this, it's like, man, it's like this is my baby. I've been putting my blood, sweat, and tears into this, and like someone's just going to come and mess it up if I give up reins of that. And I'd say that's probably true, like, you know what I mean, most if you don't get the right person. And so one of the reasons I think Patrick was comfortable giving me that authority and control is that he knows I love him, you know what I mean? And there's a great relationship of mutual respect. He knows that I think the world of him. I'm so impressed with what he's accomplished so far, and that I've got his back. You know what I mean? I'm not there to like slander him or throw him under the carpet or under, not under the carpet. What's that?
Under the rug,
Under the
yeah.
bus. Under the bus.
Under the
That's the
bus,
phrase. Yeah.
yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm there to help him so his vision can actually expand even more. You know what I mean? I'm not there to be like, what's Benoit's vision? You know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing. And we read Rocket Fuel. That was one thing that Father Matthias is like, Benoit, we're considering you as the role for integrator. You must read this book. So I read it in like a day and I was like blown away. I was like, man, this is just explains so much of what we're experiencing right now in terms of working with the visionary, but not having that vacant seat of integrator in our organization. And there was skepticism too, you know what I mean? Like, cause like we kind of tried to self-implement this, like the Father Matthias and Patrick were familiar with Rocket Fuel prior, but you really need a coach to hold you accountable because it's easy to kind of like pick and choose the rules, and you have to kind of be all in when it comes to EOS implementation, or it kind of falls through. So we tried that and it didn't work. But hiring the coach who was like, actually, Patrick, no, this is necessary. That we're not quite doing it right there. It was really good for accountability wise, and also just that objective outside voice looking in, being like, this doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's really good. And you're right. I mean, it is the foundation of success for the visionary and the integrator. I have found over the years is like the foundation of success for a leadership team, trust. Without trust, you can't have it, you can't have any of the other benefits. You can't have healthy conflict, right? You
Yeah.
can't have that back and forth between the integrator and visionary where you're pushing back on, a new idea, right? Or saying that's a great idea, but not now, right? Because we
Yeah.
have rocks and we have focus for this quarter. Let's stay focused and then let's revisit this at our quarterly. And the same thing applies to the leadership team. Without that foundation of trust, you won't have dissenting opinions. You won't have healthy debate. You won't have bold communication, one of your core values, if trust isn't there. And once you have trust, and those are based on core values, once trust is established, you can have that healthy debate, which then creates commitment and creates accountability, right? And that's how you get traction. And you guys have seen that in real time. You've seen that lived out, and your staff has obviously seen that too, based on the survey feedback you got. But it is a journey, right? It isn't like flipping a light switch on. Like we didn't do focus day and do the accountability chart and identify Patrick as the visionary, Benoit as the integrator, director of events, director of operations. we didn't do that, and then everything was just copacetic, right? You had to work at it. Is, I guess, my question, right? It took doing the work. It took having those one-on-one meetings and having those L10 leadership team meetings, and it took kind of struggling through initially. Correct? I mean, it wasn't. I'm
Yeah.
imagining.
Well, now, like, I mean, afterwards, it seems a lot easier than it was at the time, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
But yeah, there was friction, I mean, because as the integrator, he had to be like, okay, or, like, I have to trust you here, Benoit. Where I typically like what Patrick would say, like, typically I would make this decision, what I mean? But it's like I'm giving up control and making this monetary decision or this hiring decision, what I mean? And I'm just trusting you. I'm stepping back, yeah, it was hard. I'd say like from my lens, I mean, I saw a lot of the visionary integrator kind of like just kind of figure out, okay, what's my role? What's yours? What's a habit I need to let go of now? And then I also saw like the leadership team too, kind of go through this, like, okay, we now have a new boss. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of hard too. I mean, can I trust this guy? Is he going to mess it up? You know what I mean? Is he going to represent me well to the visionary and how I'm doing and things like that? So yeah, it was not easy, but it was definitely worth it, if that makes sense. And one thing that we saw, which made it so much helpful, much more easier, was the fact that we saw immediate fruit. Like
yeah,
immediately things started getting better once we started implementing it. And I think that's kind of what helped sustain us through the past year and two. So
yeah. And it really, and to circle back to core values and to mission and core focus for a leadership team to make that adjustment, like you described, where you've got leadership team members where you used to be their peer, now they're accountable to you as the
yeah,
integrator. For that to happen, they have to be people who are organization mission first, right? It can't be self-centered, protect my turf mentality. It has to be what is for the good of the organization and the mission. And clearly, having this structure of accountability and clarity is what's good for the organization. So there had to be a level of trust there that I'm going to trust this because it's better for the organization. And then as you work out the kinks and get used to the rhythm and have those healthy conflicts and those discussions, it gets easier. And I think you said it best by saying it seems easier now in hindsight than it was at the time, but you've been through the journey. You've seen the fruit come out of it. So it becomes easier and easier for your staff to adopt. Another thing that hit me in your answer that's really important that we highlight is the people that did the assessment in your organization and realized I see now why maybe I'm struggling or it seems like it's been not a direct fit is because my core value alignment isn't with the organization. It's actually serving them well too, right? And I think that gets missed a lot because people look at core value implementation and we talk about hiring, firing, rewarding, and recognizing based on core values. And they think, well, that's very Machiavellian. You're just going to get rid of people who don't align with your core values. I view it as you are truly helping that individual because there's some level of frustration and discontent that exists and they just don't know why. You said it. They
yeah,
just didn't know why. And
mhm,
we're serving them well by saying there is another place for you that you are a direct fit. There's nothing wrong with you. It's just
mhm,
you're not aligned with the way we view the world. And so let's
mhm.
find you a place that you are aligned and you'll flourish. And I've seen that happen time and time again. Has that been your experience with the people who left as well?
Yeah, well, it's not charity to keep them around, you know what I mean? Like, and sometimes it was a hard call. Like they were so good at their job, you know what I mean? Like they were useful, you know what I mean? But at the same time, like they just created drama or conflict more than others, you know what I mean? And just trying to figure out like you just communicate in a different way. And for us, it's like we're just trying to find, okay, what is that common language? And what I love is EOS gives you basically a new vocabulary. How do you describe things together? And we all agree on what the term means, right? Because I might think, okay, we're growing in this way, or like this is what healthy workplace conflict looks like. And another person may have a different definition, but EOS has helped us for the entire staff to find, okay, this is how we talk to each other. This is the norms. And now you can know how to play by the rules. right? And that just gives everyone a sense of peace. It's because like, okay, I mean, everything's less unpredictable now, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, a lot more clarity. I like to
yeah,
say when I meet people and they say, what does the US do? I like to describe it as it gets all the human energy moving in the same direction and provides clarity in the organization. Because most organizations, most companies, for profit or not for profit, have a dire need for clarity. There's a lot of confusion, there's a lot of lack of clarity, transparency, and that creates frustration, right? And people get really frustrated with that, rightfully so. And I think the framework, the cadence, the structure, the common goals, the commitment, it provides that level of clarity that is motivating just in and of itself, right? And it's anxiety reducing, right? It takes a
yeah.
it takes a level of anxiety out of the organization.
100%. Yeah. And I think another thing that I didn't really talk about either is like
Well, I think we froze there for a second. Are you still with me, Benoit?
we never would define seats. What? Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can now. Yeah,
Yeah.
we froze for a
Yeah,
second,
sorry.
but go ahead.
All right. Yeah, one thing that I loved, Mike, about EOS too was defining seats. Like for us as an organization, we were so reactionary in hiring and we wouldn't really identify needs, if that makes sense. So we'd just be like, let's just get another person there. Let's get another person there. But we wouldn't define, okay, what does this person do versus what this person does? You know what I mean? And like, oh, wait a sec, this person has 9 direct reports already. Maybe we need to divvy up some of their responsibility to someone else. And just those foundational seats, those organizational seats, like they seem so simple, but like a lot of organizations don't use them. And for us, that was just so helpful is being like, okay, I can actually see how is our team going to grow over the next 3, 5 years and like how no one's going to get burnt out because they have too many people begging them to for information all the time.
Yeah, you're touching on such one of my favorite parts of the system, which is the accountability chart, right? When I describe it, I like to say it does two things. It makes crystal clear who's accountable for what and who they're accountable to, which is different than an org chart because the way that most of us built companies, like, and I look back on my history of building businesses before EOS, I looked at the org chart like a jigsaw puzzle. Like I had all these people and I had to somehow like fit them into this org chart, right? Which EOS flips that on its head and it says, first, what structure do we need for our company or our organization? What are the seats? What are the roles? And real simple, like just what are the 5 things that this seat needs to do at a high level? And then who's the right person for that seat, right? And
Mm,
that's a totally different way of building structure than the jigsaw puzzle method. And it provides enormous clarity. And it also allows you to then get people into the right roles and address things like you were touching on capacity, right? We talk about get it, want it, capacity to do it. That
mhm.
defines a person in the right seat. Do they understand the seat? Do they understand the roles of the seat? Do they really want it? Right? It's because often in this country, people are working in jobs, I think more than we know. I think a large portion of people go to work every day doing jobs that they really don't want to do. They don't
Yeah,
enjoy. And that's a shame. Right? We want people in roles that they get fulfillment and joy and are using their God-given abilities. And do they have the capacity? Do they have the time, the intellectual capacity, the emotional capacity to do it and not burn out and not go home at the end of the day feeling like they're beat up, right? That's so powerful. And that accountability chart, when Gino said the root of all success, the root of all evils in the accountability chart, I think that's what he was referring to, is getting that right. And you guys have done enormously important work there by focusing on that. And you mentioned bringing in a director of events and looking at structure. It's not something you set it and forget it, though, right? You're constantly looking at
yeah, and it's something that like we enjoy looking at. Like when there's a problem, like if I look and it's like one of my leaders, you know what I mean, they don't have time in the day anymore, you know what I mean, because they just have so many people coming to their office. It's like, okay, wait a sec. Let's pull up your accountability chart because like it changes quickly when quick organizations, like as you grow quickly, it's like it fills up, right? So you actually like, actually you now have 9 direct reports, you know what I mean? And that's happened over the last 3 months. Let's change that up. Okay, let's find someone now who can assist you in this area and you can give up control of that one area. And then now you have 3 less direct reports. That's great. And also just like even looking across the departments, being like, okay, I see a lot of people, they're all doing like account payable stuff across multiple departments. Let's just make that one seat where one person's doing that, and now all departments are freed up more. You know what I mean? Things like that, just that bird's eye view of the health of the organization. And most people don't enjoy wearing multiple hats. Most
Yeah,
of the time, it's like it's way more stressful when there's like you're being asked to do 10 things, and most of which you're not even like you weren't originally hired for. You know what I mean? You're just
right.
kind of thrown it. And so that's not great for morale either.
And a
So
lot of
we've
them
been
you don't even really want to do in the first place. You don't
no, they
enjoy
don't
it.
want it. And that framework too of get it, want it, have capacity, man, like that is so helpful for us too, because it becomes like an objective way of reviewing someone's role, right? We've been doing a lot of quarterly meetings, you know what I mean? Quarterly conversations with staff members now. We've been implementing that across our organization. And that's one thing we check with the person. You know what I mean? It's not something where they're defensive. Like, do you get it, want to have capacity for your job? But it's like, it's a really good self-reflection that they're appreciating as well, because they can sometimes say like, actually, I don't really want to be doing tax or bookkeeping stuff in my role. You know what I mean? It's like that's important to say, you know what I mean? As opposed to just walking away
Yeah.
from the organization, just saying I didn't like my job, right? It's like it's having that self-knowledge, or I'm at max capacity. Can you please give me some tools where I can do better? You know what I mean? Like where I can like learn how to actually properly do this so it doesn't take 5 hours every week. So things like that. Just again, a language and a framework where we could just all talk, because like our focus, like we're like none of us are like a major business people, right? Coming into the organization, we're very strong in our mission, you know what I mean, and strong in our Catholic faith, our Christian faith. We're good at that, you know what I mean. But like in terms of like what does a healthy professional work life look like, you know what I mean? EOS was just amazing, and for us just to implement it, I think it almost felt like EOS was designed for our ministry in particular. Like without it, I
Yeah.
think we would not have grown as much as we have over the past 2 years.
That's such an interesting statement that you just made because I remember implementing US in my company when I first got exposed to US, and I had that same feeling. I felt like it was almost like it was designed for our business. Like this is like what we needed, like from the beginning, and that's when you know it's a fit. So, and that brings up another question. So if you're listening to this podcast, somebody out there is listening, and they're considering EOS. They've read Traction. Now it's sold, millions and millions of copies. So lots of people around the country, around the world, have heard of EOS and they've heard of Traction, and they may be a little skeptical, rightfully so, because there's been a lot of stuff out in the marketplace that you just implement this and this is what you need. And I would argue EOS is completely different. But what advice would you have for somebody who's considering EOS? Where would you see it as a fit for an organization, whether they're for profit or not for profit? And if they're considering doing it, what advice would you give them?
Yeah, well, I think most of the time it's usually the visionary who decides. You know what I mean? Like often maybe the team is like, we want this, but really the visionary has to be on board. If the visionary is not on board, it's not going to work. And I think a lot of visionaries have the wrong idea of what EOS is. They think I'm giving up control of my company so other people can run it better than I could. But really, it's like you're being freed up not so you can just walk away from your company, your ministry that you built. It's really so you can do a better job of being able to like, where are we going? What are new ideas we can try? And you actually can be freed up to use your creativity to help fuel further expansion and new opportunities. Where sometimes when you're just so in the weeds, you don't have that ability to even think, you know what I mean? And you're overwhelmed. You're like, I don't want to think about growing right now because I'm just too stressed out by this small
Yeah.
detail or small problem that really someone else should be handling, right? So I'd say that. I'd say it's yeah, as a visionary, like just watching Patrick as a visionary, I've just noticed his quality of life has improved so much. Like he was so stressed out before we implemented EOS. He was not happy. He was not enjoying it. And now yeah, I just see him thriving. He came up with an amazing idea 2 months ago that I really think is going to continue to help our organization expand even faster. But I don't know if he would have had that idea or felt like he had capacity to take that on had he not had me as an integrator helping him, being like, okay, Patrick, I like your idea. This is a pathway we can actually do it where it's
Yeah.
sustainable and not going to burn out the team. And it's like he's getting into the groove. Okay, this is what it means to be a visionary man. I love this. You know what I mean? I can like I have so much more freedom now. I'm not being asked to do things that I don't really like or get. You know what I mean? So for me, it's I'm happy. It seems like everyone is full steam ahead, and also it's like all exponential growth now because we have everyone in the right seats. They're being trained now. They're starting to really pay off now. All the education we've been putting into them, and it's just it seems like we're accelerating at a super fast rate right now. And so yeah, I'm really grateful to you, Mike. Thank you for coaching with us and being patient with us and along the whole process and also just sometimes telling us hard things, you know what I mean, that you don't we don't want to hear. And I think that's one of the reasons why it's really good to not try to self-help implement because yeah, I think sometimes when things get hard, the default is to be like, I'm just going to do what's easy. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I'm going to do what
yeah,
or do what I know. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
oftentimes if you keep doing the same things, you can only expect the same results, right? So
Yeah, no, that's so good. And I love how you started when I asked you that question, how you started that it when it comes down to often the visionary or the CEO or the senior person or the owner, they have to be willing to embrace letting go of the vine. And if they can embrace that and they are a visionary and they can get the right integrator, which Patrick did with you do get that rocket fuel. You referenced the book. That propels that leadership team, and as the leadership team goes, so goes the company. That's how you mentioned exponential growth. That's how that happens. It's not by accident, and it was through the work that you all did, and you were willing to embrace, and you were. It's been such a pleasure coaching the team because you were willing to be coached. So I think that's another prerequisite is you have to be a company that's willing to be coached and willing to embrace change. If you refuse to accept that there may be a different way of doing things, EOS is probably not the right fit for you. But if you're
yeah.
willing to say, hey, I can consider that there's a better way to do things and a better structure and put the work in, you can get the whole to become greater than the sum of the parts, which is what you're seeing at Encounter, and the whole team moving and that all that human energy, creating just exponential growth to use your phrase. So such good stuff, man. I appreciate you being on. I appreciate being your coach. It's been a pleasure. Um, and I thank you for sharing your journey with our audience because I think it's important for them to hear. If somebody out there is listening and they're interested in the mission of Encounter Ministries, what's the best way for them to get more information on Encounter?
Yeah, I'd say like obviously we have our website, but I think one of the best places for people is often going to YouTube and just looking up Encounter Ministries and just seeing our testimonies, you know what I mean, of what we've been doing around the world, the impact we've been having for Christians. And yeah, that's what I would recommend. I always prefer stories to having to read text and stuff like that. So
Powerful videos out there. I've watched most of, or not all of them, and they're very powerful. So thank you for that, and thank you again for being a guest. And sorry for the technical glitches. We had a couple of pauses, but I think we got the content in, and I appreciate your story, Benoit, and thanks for being on the show.
it was my pleasure.
We will be back next time on Getting a Grip. Thank you, everybody, for being a part of the program today and for listening. And we will catch you on the flip side.